Nanotyrannus has just been classified a valid species. Hey guys, welcome back to the Prehistoric Life Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Crawford, and today is a very unscripted episode. I didn't really plan on this episode happening, really. I didn't really know this was going to happen. But in the spirit of Halloween, let's go for it. So recently, for those of you who keep up with paleo news and all this other stuff, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's some new ankylosaurs. Allosaurus europus is maybe not valid, maybe is. Long story, doesn't matter, not important. But one of the biggest debates has finally gotten a conclusion, and that is the Nanotyrannus debate. Nanotyrannus is now a valid species thanks to the dueling dinosaurs. I have covered the dueling dinosaurs. I've went and talked to Eric Lund, who is the public face of the dueling dinosaurs. I've also talked to the founder of the dueling dinosaurs, Clayton Phipps. Excited to see and talk to him again. But Nanotyrannus has been determined its own valid genus now. And with the release of the Dueling Dinosaurs paper, we have figured this out with very important key evidence. And the way we figured this out is we looked at let's see if it's in this thing. There's the skull. I'll link this paper below. But turns out I can't find it. But there were growth rings. They looked at the growth rings to determine the age. So they cut the bone and they looked at it kind of like a tree. The thing with oak trees is the famous one that I know off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it's all trees, where you can count the rings on the tree and you can see how old the tree is. Bones are the same way. So that's what they did. They took one of the Nanotyrannus bones, they cut it, the thin sheet out, and they looked at the rings inside and were able to determine the analysis of the growth rings, like tree rings, in the limb bones shown that the dueling dinosaur specimen was approximately 20 years old. So about pretty much mature adult. And its growth rate had dramatically slowed, indicating it was skeletally mature adult and had stopped growing. Now, the main debate was if Nanotyrannus is a juvenile T-Rex or whatever. But now that we have looked at the growth rings of the limb bone, we have determined that it fully grown. It was 20 years old, which is fully mature for dinosaurs. Which means, and it was significantly smaller than T-Rex, like significantly smaller. Pull this up real quick. It's actually a really good thing right here for this. Like, they are significantly smaller than Tyrannosaurus Rex. So, I mean, they're still pretty big for size sake, but they're pretty much smaller than Tyrannosaurus. But This is crucial because at about half the size of an adult T-Rex, at 20-year-old individual should have been a massive T-Rex if it were a juvenile of that specimen. So with those growth rings and determining its age, we have determined that it is fully grown. So this can only really mean one thing, and that means that it's its own specimen. And like, we got Nanotyrannus, but that's also not it. I wish that were it. Actually, I don't. I'm really glad that's not it, because that would make this episode so much shorter. But fixed atomic differences. The specimen possesses multiple distinct morphological features that are set early in dinosaur development and are not expected to change with age. For Nanotyrannus to be a juvenile T-Rex, it would have to develop traits that defy known vertebrate growth patterns. Its higher tooth count. Nanotyrannus had significantly more teeth in its jaws than adult T-Rex. Larger forelimbs. The arms were proportionally and absolutely larger than those of a full-grown Tyrannosaurus Rex, which I think is in this paper, is comparing it to T-Rex. That's the skull right there. Here are those arms. With larger hands and claws, suggesting they were used for prey capture. Fewer tail vertebrae. The number of vertebrae in the tail were less than that in T-Rex. Distinct skull structure. Differences were found in the patterns of cranial nerves and sinuses inside the skull, which are fixed anatomical feature. These lines of evidence conclusively suggest that the animal was a mature individual that was biologically incapable of growing into a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Instead, it was a smaller, leaner, more agile predator that coexisted with the massive Tyrannosaurus Rex during the late Cretaceous period. So this actually also confirms something else, another theory that has been debated within paleo media, I guess is what we'd say, was the extreme decline in biodiversity at the end of the Cretaceous. Was the Nanotyrannus, back when it wasn't known, we had like 4 major things in the Cretaceous North America Hell Creek Formation. You had T-Rex, Triceratops, Edmontosaurus, Ankylosaurus, and occasional Pachycephalosaurus. So it was like biodiversity is just not there. We don't know what's going on. Some people were thinking that the creatures would kind of evolve out of existence. Dinosaurs would just evolve out of existence. Their time on the earth kind of gone. So that their biodiversity was thought to be dwindling in the late Cretaceous. But with this discovery and others like it, we can now determine that there are significantly more species out there than what we have determined. Meaning that they weren't declining in biodiversity. There were actually other distinct species around, like Nanotyrannus. Stygimoloch and other things are heavily debated, whether they're juvenile, whatever. But the confirmed status of Nanotyrannus as a distinct species rather than a juvenile T-Rex has profound paleontological significance that fundamentally changes our understanding of the late Cretaceous world. The sentence is the validation of Nanotyrannus fundamentally reshapes the late Cretaceous ecosystem model by confirming 2 coexisting Tyrannosaurus species. Necessitates a reevaluation of decades of T-Rex growth and behavioral studies, and highlights a higher than expected predatory diversity just before the mass extinction event. Of course, rewriting a T-Rex biology of growth. For decades, the smaller disputed Nanotyrannus fossils were used as the basis of models of teenage T-Rex growth, locomotion, diet, and life histories. Since those models were based on separate species, the entire body of research must now be re-examined and corrected, providing a cleaner, more accurate picture of how T-Rex matured. So basically, the discovery of Nanotyrannus has just reopened T-Rex for complete reinterpretation. Well, for growth cycles at least. Most adults are probably look at Sue or Scotty. Those bad mamba jambas are just like that. Richer ecosystem and niche partitioning. The prevailing view was the massive T-Rex monopolized the entire predatory niche and the ecosystem from juvenile to adult. Confirming Nanotyrannus means that there were two distinct Tyrannosaurus predators coexisting: the heavy bone-crushing T-Rex and the lighter, faster, more agile Nanotyrannus. This suggests a more complex niche partitioning where the two species hunted different prey and used different strategies, making the late Cretaceous ecosystem of North America much richer and more competitive than previous thought. And then, of course, the Tyrannosaurus evolutionary diversity. The presence of two distinct Tyrannosaurus genera are at the very end of the Cretaceous supports the idea that dinosaur diversity was still thriving right up until the asteroid impact, challenging older theories that diversity was in decline. It was aligned with patterns seen in Asia and earlier North American formations where multiple Tyrannosaur species often coexisted. Daspletosaurus and Gorgosaurus is a solid example of that. But that being said, since they are both late Cretaceous Tyrannosaurs, and Nanotyrannus being the smaller, I think it had longer legs too, more leggy one, it probably did monopolize on what we did think juvenile Tyrannosaurus would probably have hunted on. The smaller prey, smaller lizards, smaller animals, scavenging, things like that nature. It probably monopolized with those. Not saying that I'm not taking sides or whatever. Not saying that juvenile Tyrannosaurs were like not a thing or whatever, but the new discovery of Nanotyrannosauria has also made it Nanotyrannosauria because Nanotyrannus is now a thing now. So I actually need to update the dinosaur family tree with some new possible taxa tree. This is what I'm seeing now. So Nanotyrannosauria is now a thing now under Eotyrannus because it splits off into Tyrannosauridae and then Nanotyrannosauria, with Appalachosaurus, Dryptosaurus being Nanotyrannosauria, but also Nanotyrannus lithius and Nanotyrannus lancenis being there too. So we have Dryptosaurus, Appalachosaurus. I'm curious on what the Nanotyrannosauridae tree is going to look like from here on out, because there are other species that I am seeing that are not here that might need to be, no, those are just before all that isn't there. So I need to move the Tyrannosaurus down and move Dryptosaurus down too. So this has basically just revolutionized the Tyrannosaurus tree to an insane degree. I mean, we basically have just confirmed an entire branch now. I mean, and of course, with today's sponsor, one of today's sponsors, you can actually get your own Nanotyrannus skull cast.
If you follow my account, you probably like dinosaurs, fossils in the prehistoric world. And if you have ever shopped for fossils, you'll see that a lot of them have some very high prices, rightfully so, because they are usually one of a type specimen. Then you go look for casts, and you see a lot of these low-quality casts going around, so you just don't know what to do. You either have to buy something super expensive or something super low quality. Enter dinosaur skeletons. Dinosaur skeletons specializes in creating museum-quality replicas of prehistoric life and is renowned for its highly detailed reconstructions. Founded by a professional paleo artist with over a decade of experience in the collectibles industry, they are dedicated to providing enthusiasts, collectors, and institutions with the opportunity to own magnificent, lifelike prehistoric replicas. Each creation is crafted with exceptional care and attention to detail. This means they are highly accurate to their source material, super high quality, and museum grade level quality. This is probably the closest you could get to bringing home a museum exhibit. They're also fairly affordable for the accuracy and quality put into it, which also means they make great gifts for birthdays and holidays for that collector or dinosaur enthusiast you know. So go check out Dinosaur Skeletons and get your cast today.
And this right here is the desktop Nanotyrannus, 22 centimeters long. That's the desktop collectible, which is much more affordable than the life-sized one, the actual one that he makes. But if you want that one, go get that one too. It's probably much bigger, much cooler for your desk. But so if you want your own Nanotyrannus skull, hit up Dinosaur Skeletons. Go to his website. Go buy one. Tell him Prehistoric Life sent you. Get yourself a Nanotyrannus skull. And the other one, our other sponsor of today's video, I don't actually know if they have anything to the Raleigh Natural History Museum, but if they do, it might be worth going to check it out. But if you just want to go see other dinosaurs, here they are.
Huge shout out to today's sponsor, Dinosaur Trips. If you enjoy these majestic creatures I talk about here on the podcast and would like to go see them for yourself, I would heavily recommend Dinosaur Trips. Dinosaur Trips is a company created to give people a behind-the-scenes in-look on museums and dig sites, along with just having an amazing time looking at these amazing, fabulous, majestic creatures. So if you sound interested, go to www.dinosaurtrips.com and tell them Prehistoric Life sent you and get $250 off your tickets. Now, back to the show.
And beautiful ending for today's episode. I will fix up the dinosaur family tree, make that Nanotyrannus accurate on there. Got to move Eotyrannus around. Got to actually build the tree. And then I will put it on each of the trees as I have been doing. But for now, just keep your eyes out for Nanotyrannus papers. There might be a lot of new Tyrannosaurus papers coming out soon. Keep your eyes out for those. Feel free to read over them and all that good jazz. But I hope everybody has a good afternoon, morning, and especially evening and night, because it is Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody. It is a very spooky time. what better time than to talk about skeletons? So I'm your host, Eric Crawford. This has been Prehistoric Life Podcast. Signing off, remember, keep it prehistoric. Goodbye.